Today we're going to be doing a quick unboxing of the P8P67 LE from ASUS. So cameraman has already jumped ahead of me and he's looking at all of the different stuff down here. So we have their, this is their turbo, whatever it's called, turbo processing unit or something like that. Anyway, between these two, you can either boost up performance or you can improve energy efficiency. Let's just say that much. Here we have support for SATA 6 gigabit per second. We have USB 3 and Memo K. And I actually used the Memo K button on an ASUS motherboard recently for the first time. It actually works. I was not able to post because the memory was not 100% compatible with the P67 chipset. I used the Memo K button. It set it to a totally safe setting, and I was able to get into the BIOS to adjust all the timings manually. Very neat. Certificate of assurance, low radiation, eco-friendly, and anti-surge. Well, there it is. Okay, it supports the any CPU on LGA 1155, so that is Core i5, Core i7 CPUs on LGA 1155. It is not backwards compatible with LGA 1156, and you will ruin something if you try and do that. All right, we have an EFI BIOS, which is a very cool thing, as well as AI Suite, which has all kinds of neat functionality like adjusting fan profiles, that turbo thing, the eco thing, as well as monitoring your temperature. So let's get the board opened up. And we have accessories. Whoa, an IDE cable. I haven't seen an IDE cable in a motherboard box in a little while, actually. So there's one. Here we have two SATA 2 right angle cables. We have one SATA 3 6 gigabit per second right angle cable. Please note there's no physical difference between them other than the white color coding, which doesn't matter. Here's an IO shield. Here is a user's guide, and here is a support DVD and powered by ASUS sticker. Download the latest from the ASUS website. Don't bother with that CD. This is an LE board, so that is why we are seeing a fairly limited accessory package on this guy. However, that could be bad news. Check this out, I found a jumper. Okay, so this jumper was probably somewhere. We are going to go on a voyage of discovery and try to figure out where this jumper came from. My guess would be the chassis intrusion. Oh no, oh here we are, clear. This is a clear CMOS. There is no chassis intrusion thing, so 1 to 2 is normal. Let's assume 1 to 2 is those two. There we go, so that's where that came from, hopefully. And here's the board. So let's start in the middle where we have our LGA 1155 CPU socket, which supports, as I mentioned before, all Core i5 and Core i7 chips on this platform. That means because we're using the P67 chipset, you have full support for overclocking K-series unlocked chips, as well as turning up the turbo on turbo supporting processors. But because it's P67, it will not support the onboard video on any of the Core i series second generation chips. Here we have a wave style MOSFET heatsink. It looks like this board is using like a 4+1 phase power design as far as I can tell. Yeah, hard to say. That's what it looks like though. So guys, please correct me if I'm wrong on that one because it doesn't indicate anything on the box itself. And that makes life difficult for Linus. Okay, well, let's keep on moving along then. Here is our 8-pin CPU connector in its ideal location. Here is our dual channel DDR3 supporting slots, so up to 4 slots, up to, I believe it can support up to 32 gigs of memory, although please, once again, correct me if I'm wrong. Here's the Memo K button, one IDE port. Check that out, yo. So if you have an IDE drive you want to use, this is the board you want because most P67 boards do not support IDE drives. Here's our 24-pin power connector in its ideal location. Here are a couple of SATA 3 6 gigabit per second ports, and wow, here's another one. So that must be off the same controller as this IDE port. Okay, here is our chipset cooler. So that's the I/O controller chip under there. That's going to be running also the SATA 6 gigabit per second ports as well as the SATA 3 gigabit per second ports here. We have 4 front USB headers, a FireWire header. We have apparently a clear CMOS jumper, as well as a COM1 header. Okay, in terms of expansion slots, it's a P67 board, so that means it is Crossfire ready. We do have support for one 16x card up here or dual 8x cards. So that means if you want to run Crossfire, you will have enough bandwidth for 2 cards without any issues. Here we have 2 PCI slots, 3 PCI slots. This is a relatively low-end board, so that's something that I've come to expect because you may want to carry forward your sound card or some other PCI device. We've got 2 PCIe 1X slots, and this is a fairly ideal layout, although maybe I'd prefer one more PCIe 1X slot accessible if you are running dual slot cards, because you're going to be left with 2 PCI and 1 PCIe 1X if you're running a Crossfire configuration. So let's have a look at the I/O shield on the back of the board. Here we have dedicated PS2 ports for keyboard and mouse, 2 USB 3.0 ports, optical audio out, 6 USB 2.0 ports. We've got eSATA, FireWire, Gigabit Ethernet, and 7.1 audio out. So nothing particularly exceptional about the back of the board, except, oh, look at this. ASUS is using screws, spring-mounted screws for the chipset cooler. So that's a pretty nice touch. I do like to see screws used for mounting coolers versus push pins, but it's not always possible for economic reasons. Thank you for checking out my unboxing of the ASUS P8P67 LE motherboard. Don't forget to subscribe to Linus Tech Tips for more unboxings, reviews, and other computer videos.